Hey, XR here. Starting a new series today. This is a game that has very recently been released on Steam, although it's been around for a couple of years before that. I think it came out originally in 2012, but it was released by Slitherine Games, Matrix Publishing, I think. They're the same company that publishes Distant Worlds, which is the way I first found out about this game. Um, but only very recently released on Steam, so when it released on Steam, it was on sale. I was finally able to grab it. So I'm a big fan of Roman history, ancient history, but especially the Roman Empire. I've done a lot of studying and all that on it just as a hobby, and so I was really attracted to this game. This is a turn-based strategy game that seeks to be very historically accurate in representing some periods of civil war throughout the time of the Roman Empire. It uses the AGEOD or AJOD. I'm not sure how you're supposed to say it, but engine for turn-based strategy games. They've made the company behind this has made games with that engine in other time periods like World War II and Civil War and stuff, American Civil War. But this is the first one that I'm aware of they did with that engine in Roman times. So it's pretty cool. It's very complicated, and let me just put out a how do you want to say it? A disclaimer here. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm not very good at this game, um, but I think I know how to play it now, which is kind of a you'll understand when you start to look at it. It's kind of a big achievement. But I saw there aren't very many videos of this game on YouTube, and I figured I'd do my own and maybe help out other people who are trying to learn to play it. Um, I've really only completed one scenario, which I completed as a minor victory, which is um, what they call it basically when you win by points, but you haven't actually achieved all your objectives. It's a minor victory. Um, but I'm pretty sure I know how to play, in other words. So hopefully, if you're someone who's looking to see what the game is like or looking to pick up the game, um, then this will help you figure it out a little bit and see what it's like. But I don't claim to be actually good at this game, and I'm sure that someone who, if anyone stumbles across this video and watches it, who is actually, skilled at this game, they'll probably be banging their heads against the desk at all the mistakes I'm making. But anyway, so let's click on New Game here and take a look. This game is not progressive or random at all. It's all scenario based. But each scenario has multiple sides that you can choose to play as any of them. And so, theoretically, that gives a lot of replayability to it because you have the ability to say, okay, I beat this one scenario as Marius. Now let me try it again as Sulla and see if I can beat it. Um, because they have different objectives. Each side has different objectives, what they need to do to beat it. Each one of these scenarios is based on a real event. Um, I believe the subtitle of this game is Roman Civil Wars, so I think the starting scenarios they give you are all civil wars between various factions in the Roman Empire, um, except possibly this one. There are also some additional scenarios that are available for DLC. I haven't picked any of those up yet because I've only completed one of these so far, but um, so let's take a look at this one here. This is Marius versus Sulla in 87 BC. The war between the Roman Republic and the Kingdom of Pontus broke out in the spring of 88 BC. The conflict, which had been building for years, was started when King Mithridates the Sixth Eupator brutally seized the Roman domains in Asia Minor following. Oh, this isn't going to let me read the whole thing. Let me go into it. I'll select it, then we'll go into it, and I'll read because I believe it'll bring up the full text when we're in the game. You have to choose a name for your game. That's just how it's saved. And then pick what faction you're going to be. There's the Populares, which are Marius. The faction wins by controlling Rome and making sure Romans of any faction have reclaimed Macedonia, Greece, and Asia Minor. The Optimates, which is the Sulla faction, wins by controlling Rome and making sure the Romans have. So they basically have the same objectives. And then Pontus, the Mithridatic faction, wins by controlling Asia Minor, Macedonia, and Greece, all cities. Let's do Optimates, Sulla, because he's the one who essentially won this conflict historically. So we'll select that, and it will load up the game, I believe, and it should bring up that text. Yeah, here we go. So let me read this again. This scenario covers the 87 to 82 BC war that opposes Rome against Pontus, as well as the civil war between Marius and Sulla. The Sulla Romans, the Optimates, that's us, must follow a direct schedule to win. Their first goal is to crush all Pontic forces in Macedonia and Greece in order to recover a sound base to prepare for the upcoming civil war. Failure to achieve this will result in fighting on two fronts during the civil war. The Marius faction, the Populares, is rather weak initially, but will gain strength steadily. When it feels ready, it can start the hostilities and the civil war. Control of Italy will be crucial, but Marius can't win if he loses ground at Hispania, so that secondary front must be watched closely. Mithridates, Ponticus, and his Greek allies can win if he holds on to most of Roman Greece and Asia by the end of the game. The target can be reached easily early on, but maintaining control in the face of the powerful legions of Sulla will be hard. But when the civil war erupts in Rome, opportunities will be there to be seized. In this scenario, the Armenians are neutral but friendly with Pontus. If the Romans get too close, they may actively join Mithridates. Okay, so that wasn't exactly the same text. That's just, yeah. But it's explaining the situation here. So let's zoom out and take a look at the map. This game does kind of run crappily when you're zoomed out. I guess there's a lot of information going on, and it runs really well if you, like if I'm zoomed into this level, I can, zoom around and scroll and do things and it's fine. But if you zoom out too far, it starts to get pretty crazy. So here's the whole map. None of the scenarios that come with the game deal with anything, way up here, obviously. But this is the same map, I guess, that's used for most of the games in the engine. So it's all included here anyway. There are some scenarios that deal with Britain, but you won't go up to any of this stuff. But for this scenario, all this stuff that's grayed out is not important. The stuff that we care about is this stuff right here, basically around the Mediterranean. So we are red, the Optimates. These are some of our guys around here, and the game has a very board game type feel, which I personally like. I'm a fan of big strategy board games like this. So the units are just these cards like on little stands that you move around. The blue guys are the Optimates. Those are the Populares. And historically, the Optimates were a faction, basically, Optimates Optimum. They believe they're the best. They were nobles, the Senate, essentially. And the Populares, which are these blue guys who are the people we're fighting against, Marius's faction, were the people, the common people, sort of the 99% trying to wrest power away from the Senate, because they felt that things were unfair. So that's kind of the base of the Civil War. And then over here, the pink color is Mithridates, is Pontus. And they're the other side. And then all these other colors are other factions, but I believe that these areas are still controlled. Yeah, they're still, you can see there in a little pop-up, it says Loyalty Pontics. So these people, even though they're not actually belonging to the Pontus faction, are loyal to Pontus, and so are considered part of their thing. And in fact, there are some people who are loyal to us that are not actually part of the Optimates faction. You can see over here on the side, we've got our three main generals. Two of them are really not, I guess they're not main generals, but these are the leaders of the three factions, of the factions that are loyal to us. So the first one we've got is Sulla, who's the main guy that we are. Then this is Ptolemaeus the Ninth. He's the king of Egypt. So he's here in Alexandria. And this you see here, Loyalty Optimates, 100%. So that's on our side, but he's not actually part of our faction. And this guy over here is Hiempsale, who I believe is way over here. Yeah, he's here in Sirta in North Africa. Again, Loyalty 100% Optimates, but not actually part of our faction. I'm not actually sure what faction he is. Numidia is this country. They are also loyal to us. And we can actually take a look at the general disposition of the whole map by clicking over here. These are the map overlays over here above the map. And this one shows the owners of all the regions. So this is what it looks like right now. Red would be us. Blue would be the Populares. And pink here is Pontus. This green over here, I believe, are barbarians. Lusitanians, yeah, Lusitania. They're barbarians. They're not directly involved in our war, but if we were the populares, the blue guys, we would have to worry about them a little bit because there's a possibility they could start raiding and attacking our towns and stuff, which would interfere with our ability to wage war in other parts of the map. So let's turn that back off. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff going on here. One of the main problems that I first had when I started this game up was there's just so much to do. Like we've got guys here, guys here. We control all these cities. There's armies here, armies over there. But what you'll come to realize is it's really not as complicated as it seems at first. And the main reason for that is even though you've got all these armies scattered around, a lot of them can't actually do anything. You'll notice, so let's take this guy for example. This is one of our armies. This is the Italia Exercitus Sena Gallica army, led by proconsul Gnaeus Pompeius Strabo. This army has this little lock symbol on it. And all these units here also have that lock symbol on it. That means that army can't move. It's essentially stuck here in Ancona. The reason for that is usually because for whatever reason they're assigned to that area, or they are, the game takes great lengths to be historically accurate as far as where people are and what they can and can't do in many situations. So, if this guy historically stayed in Ancona for this entire conflict, that could be your reason why he's blocked here. But basically, he's locked. He's standing here. Now, all locked units, if they're locked in a place like that, can become unlocked in various ways. Sometimes, as the scenario progresses, they may just become unlocked after a period of time, which would again be a representation of the sort of historical aspect of it. Maybe some event happens that unlocks them and then they become available. Or many of these other guys, like you'll notice, our other two guys here, our allies, are also locked. This is the army of the King of Egypt, is locked. And it says somewhere that, I don't remember exactly where it says it, but I know it's somewhere. It says that they will become unlocked if they are attacked. So basically, they can't do anything but sit in their home cities. But if the enemy attacks them, then suddenly they become unlocked. And once they're unlocked, we can move them around as we see fit. Now, I played this scenario before, and these cities here are under control of the Populares. If we turn on control again, you can see they're under the control of the Populares faction, and that guy did actually come over here and attack this army, and then once that happened, I was able to move this guy around and try to take over this whole area for my faction, basically. And again, you'll notice, even though this is not my color, this is Numidia, this is not my Roman faction, if I turn on control, it shows that I control this, because these guys are loyal to me. So that counts as my faction controlling this area, even though it's not actually my faction that owns it. What else? So there's so much to do here. Well, let's take a look at our main armies that we can actually move. This is Rome. Holding on to Rome is very important. You earn victory points, which are, that's morale. These are victory points right here, the little eagle symbol. And although you need to be holding your objectives to get a major victory, when I said before I got a minor victory when I completed the scenario, I didn't complete all the objectives. I didn't have all of Asia Minor back under my control. But I had the most victory points at the end of the game, so I still got a minor victory. So that's what these determine. They determine basically they break down the places of the various factions when you finish, if the goals have not necessarily been met. And you earn victory points through a variety of ways, but the main way is by controlling what they call objective cities. Objective cities are very important cities, and they are these cities with the star next to them. Ancona is one, Selene is one. There's a whole bunch of them scattered around. In fact, one of these overlays shows objectives. Well, this shows strategic locations, and I believe most objectives are also strategic locations. I think the flashing ones are the ones that are scenario objectives. Yeah. See, this star here is gold at Neapolis. This star is silver. Oh, this one doesn't even have a star and it's still flashing. Okay, I'm not 100% sure what the flashing means, but the star cities I know are objectives, and if you hold the star cities, you gain victory points every turn for holding them. In addition, Rome is worth a crap ton of points. It's like 25 victory points a turn for holding Rome, which is more than most of the other cities by a fair margin. So we've got this city in this guy army sitting here in Rome. Here's the actual army down here. That's the commander, Consul Gnaeus Octavius, and we can actually bring him up. When you click on him, it brings up this little card over here, and then you can actually click on this and bring up his whole unit card. He has no experience. He's a general. His seniority is 3. I believe 1 is the highest. It counts down. So Sulla would be seniority 1, and that just means if they're in the same army, it uses the stats and the command and stuff of the highest seniority general. These are all his different stats. There's a whole bunch of stats. Each general has special abilities as well, which do all kinds of different things. There's tons and tons of them. So that's the general. We've got another commander here, and the armies they have command basically. I believe it'll say if I mouse over it. Yeah, see, required command 2, provided command 17, and so you need to have commanders in your army to meet that need. And if you don't, you get a damage penalty, and it can be pretty severe. It increases the more you go over the limit. And you can add additional command to an army by having more commanders, but it's not strictly additive. I'm not exactly sure what the ratio is, but if you have a guy whose command is 10 and you add another guy who's 5, it won't be 15, it'll be like 12. So each additional guy doesn't give their full amount, but they do increase the limit. So you need to make sure you have enough commanders in your armies. Long story short. Oops. So he's yeah, and then they've got just two Italian auxiliaries here, which are light troopers with some missile fire, I think. Yeah, offensive fire 5. So they're light guys with javelins. And then they've got a supply train. Supply is really important in this game. It's one of the most important things. You can actually destroy enemy armies simply by cutting off their supply without actually ever fighting them. When you click on these units, also over here in this box in the lower right, you'll see these little things pop up, and these are actually the subunits of the unit. So this is the unit, legions. Like if we look here, here's the 7th Legion, 7th Italian Legion, I believe, and then they've got all these cohorts in here. They've got a legatus, which is the commander of the legion, and then all these individual cohorts. And then when you lose men, they come out of these individual cohorts. And then if you lose cohorts, the cohorts will replenish themselves naturally if you're in supply and resting. But if you lose an entire cohort out of your legion, it has to be brought in from your replacement pool, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, and so basically what the supply wagons do is your army has to draw supply in order to keep your guys fed, and that's actually up here. These two green things next to each other, this one on the left is ammunition, and the one on the right is general supply, which is food and water. And you'll see if you're not in supply, this will start to turn red, which is a bad thing. As your guys use up your supply, it'll turn more and more red. I guess I always thought it looked like an envelope, but I guess it's like a cooking pot over a fire or something, or a tent maybe, I'm not sure. But anyway, so when you end a turn, you have a supply requirement, which is based on the number of troops with you, and they'll first try to draw that supply from the land around them. If they're in friendly territory or lush territory they can pillage, that's easy to do. If there's not enough supply to feed the army naturally from the territory and the towns and cities, then they take it from their supply wagons. And then when you go back to a friendly area, that refills the supply wagons. So the supply wagons allow you to go into unfriendly territory or harsh territory and take your supply with you. There's actually an overlay for supply too. It's right here. So areas with green are areas that have high supply. Red, obviously, low supply, and orange is kind of medium-y supply. Yeah, so we've got this army at Rome, which we can move around, but it's a very small army. They're inside Rome, which is why when I click off they disappear, but when I click on Rome they show up again. They are inside Rome. You can see that right here, inside Roma. They're basically holding the fort down against all these other guys. You can also see a relative strength of the army, because we can't look at these armies, these enemy armies. It kind of, when I mouse over it, it kind of gives me a hint of what's there. They has a leader, they have a bunch of regulars, some cavalry, but it doesn't tell me exactly what they are. But looking at these little green dots here on the base of their stand is the relative strength of the army. So it goes up to 5 is the highest. So 3 is pretty big. This is a pretty big army. You can see this one here is 3 legions, and that's 2 dots. This guy over here is 2 dots as well. These are enemies. This army is ours. That's just 1 legion, the 5th legion. He's unlocked, but he's currently besieging Nola, which it looks like is in revolt currently. Who's controlling Nola? There we go. Loyalty. Slaves. Okay, so it's a slave revolt currently controlling Nola. Now, if you'll remember the little blurb at the beginning, we're not actually at war with the Populares yet. There have been no hostilities. Battle lines have kind of been drawn, which is why there's different zones of control, but we're actually still at war with Pontus, and so nobody here has actually attacked each other yet, which is why we're currently trying to put down the slave revolt here. Looks like the Populares control Tarentum, but we control all these. Our big main army is right here. This is Sulla. You can see his army has 5 dots. And what have we got here? This is Sulla the general, and he is a pretty amazing general, if I remember. Yeah, where are his stats? 655, which is really good. Strategic is the ability to move. The higher their strategic rating, the faster they can move, and the higher their command and stuff. And then offensive and defensive is just in battle. So you'll see most of these guys are like 322, 432, 312, and then Sulla is 655. So he's really good. He's our main general. He's also got a ton of abilities. He's charismatic. He's a fast mover. He's strategically decisive, and he's an assaulter. Assaulter is a really good ability to have. Caesar also has assaulter in the Caesar versus Pompey scenario. So we've got him. He's got 3 sub-commanders. He's got 5 legions. He's got 3 units of auxiliaries, a unit of cavalry, and a irregular, looks like slingers, and 4 supply train. And he's here in Dyrrachium. And if you'll remember, the first thing in that little blurb, it said that we as the Optimates should do is try to get all of Greece and Macedonia back under our control. So right now, we control a lot of this here, but the Pontics control all this whole part of, we actually control this city right here, or this area right here too, but the Pontics control this whole area in southern Greece. They've got a pretty big army right here. This guy's 4 dots. He's a Pontic army. We've also got Argos and Athens down here, who are independent. They are loyalty is kind of in the middle, but they're currently independent. They need to be brought back under control. You can see here in Argos, their loyalty is actually 70% to Optimates already, 30% to the Pontics, but they're basically contested. Military control, you'll see right under that, military control Achaia, which is the Greeks, 100%. So they're not actually in our, even though the people might be sort of loyal to us, the region is not under our control. So we need to bring that region back under our control. We've also got this army over here, which is a really little small army outside of Thessalonica, which is just this one. Get this one dude. He's a pretty good commander. Legatus Quintus Bratius Sura. Legatus is like general. I believe the Legatus was in command of a legion usually. Yeah, I'm a consul, which is like the 2 consuls were the heads of the Roman state. But he's just got these 2 auxiliaries and a unit of cavalry. But he's sitting outside Thessalonica, which is an objective city. We need to be worried about, in addition to this very large Pontic army, this very large Pontic army, which is going to start coming over here. Eventually, our goal is to capture this whole area, come back here, and fight off the civil war against Marius, and then come back and reclaim all of Asia Minor, which is this whole area over here from the Pontics, which is currently all under control of the Pontus. Pontus is up here. This is the actual kingdom of Pontus. Up here you can see Bithynia and Pontus. So all of this over here, all these kingdoms like from here to the left, all these cities need to be under our control by the end of the game if we want to actually complete all the objectives. In addition to all of these cities and all of Italy. I believe, what was my... I guess it doesn't actually say my actual objective here, but my actual objective, I believe, is to control Rome, control all of Italy, and then capture all this back from the Pontics. So what are we going to do first? That's really the question. Well, we need to take this guy down. This army here, with Sulla as this commander, who is an excellent commander, is more than a match for this guy. But we need to try to capture, goad him into fighting us, because he might try to avoid us. I think first, since this guy's got a very small army, I'm going to move him into Thessalonica. And the way you move armies around in this game is you just click and drag them. So you pick it up like this, and if I want to put him into this city, I just have to move him over the city and then drop it, and he will walk down there, and that'll tell me how long it'll take him to get there. It'll take him 5 days to get there. Now, a turn in this game is 30 days, so when you click the next turn button, it will advance 30 days. So anything that takes less than 30 days will happen over the time the thing is processing before it actually finishes. A couple other notes about towns. They sometimes have fort levels, like this here, this blue 1, that's a level 1 fortified town. Dyrrhachium is a level 2 fortified town, and that means when you attack it, you have to put it under siege, and that's kind of what's going on over here. Nola is a level 2 fortified town, and it's under siege. Nola is besieged, but the structure is intact. So every turn based on the siege going on, there's a chance that you'll make a breach in the fortifications, and you have to have the number of breaches equal to the fortification level of the city. So this is a level 2 fort. We'll need to have 2 breaches before we can assault it with our troops. That's why the assaulter ability that Sulla has, I mentioned before, is so good. The assaulter ability is this stack assaults fortresses even if the walls are not breached. So if you have a guy with assaulter in command of a thing, you can storm forts without actually having to siege them to breach the defenses, which is fantastic. It can lead to some very high losses. Obviously, it's not easy to storm a intact fortress, but you can do it, which is really good if you're basically trying to fight an uncontested fort. You don't have to waste time there. You could just overwhelm it. These little things here are showing that there's someone inside the city. There's one unit in the city, and if I click on it, it brings it up. And you'll see this. These are like the Urbi Militae, which are like basically the city garrison. And they're locked. Usually Urbi Militae that are assigned to cities can't move from those cities. So that shows you how many units are in the actual city. There's somebody here in Thebes, but I can't see who it is because I don't control it. The blue ones underneath are ships. There's a ship there. Yeah, so for our first turn, we're going to move him there, and then we want to move this guy down. This is Sulla. Let's send him over to Pharsalos here to attack this city, because we want to try to come down here and then try to get this guy. I'm not sure what he's going to do, but we want to goad him into fighting. So let's come over here. You can see this is the path we're going to take. And that's going to take us 29 days. So we'll be able to achieve that in one turn. Now over here you can see the stances you can give the people. There's assault posture, offensive posture, defensive posture, and passive posture. And just very quickly, what these mean is if it's a passive posture, it means that well, it says right there. Well, let's start with defensive. You won't engage the enemy in the region, allowing them to pass by, but if you're attacked, the terrain can provide some advantage. You will not gain any ground by defending against an enemy, even if you have the upper hand in a battle. So basically, if you're in defensive posture, enemies can move through the place where you're in and you won't try to fight them. But if they attack you, you may have a defensive bonus from being in defensive posture. But even if you win, it won't increase your military control in the area. Passive is the same as defensive, but with combat penalties if you're attacked. But you have a higher chance of retreat. So if you're in passive and you're moving through, It gives you a better chance to move past the enemy without being attacked. And if they attack you, you have a higher chance of being able to retreat, minimizing your losses. Also, if you are trying to replace troops during replacement phase, units with in passive have a higher priority to be replaced. So when you have when you're resting an army, essentially, you want to put them in passive posture. Offensive posture is you will attack any enemy on site in the region. So you move into a region with an enemy in it, you attack them. If they move into your region, you attack them back. You don't get any terrain benefit from defense, like you would with defensive. But if you win, you will gain ground, get military control percentage. And the final one is assault posture, which means any enemy structure encountered at the end of movement phase will be automatically assaulted without sieging it. Now, obviously, if they have a fort and you don't have assaulter, you have to siege it anyway. But for towns that don't have forts, like all these have level 1 forts. Where's a town that doesn't have a fort? There's got to be some that don't have forts. Maybe in the more uncivilized part of the world. No, they all seem to have forts around here. Well, anyway, if there was a town without a fort and you were in assault posture, you would attack it right away and take it over. If you have assaulter, like Sulla, and you're in assault posture, you will assault the town right away and take it over, because you don't have to wait to breach the defenses. So I'm going to put them in assault posture and move them over here, because there's no enemy army here. There's one unit in the city, but it's probably just the city garrison. So if I put him in assault posture, as soon as he moves over there, he will attack and take over the city. So that's what he's doing. He's going there. I believe the only other army we can actually move would be this guy, who is currently besieging Nola, which I'm going to leave him doing for now. And our guys in Rome, who we don't want to move because they're defending Rome. So I believe those are the only guys we can actually move. So we've now given them their orders, and we are ready to end the turn. But also, it's been about half an hour, so I'm going to end the episode here. Next time, we will actually advance the game a little bit. Stay tuned.